Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's My Aim's Recruitment Show, where we're going to be talking about prospering in a post-AI world. And to do that, we have a very special guest who's going to help us talk about how the market's fragmenting and what you should do to prosper in this new world. But this is our first show of 2026, so is it too late to say Happy New Year, Mike?
No, it's never too late. Happy New Year, Kirsty.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you, big guy.
We've just come back from our groundhog holidays, separately, of course. I don't go on holiday with my 36-year-old daughter. Oh, give it
I would if you paid for it.
Oh, all right then. Yeah, I am taking your brother away this year because he's 40, so maybe that would work. But it's the start of the year. I don't know about you, but I feel excited. I feel energized. I feel very focused. We've got our quarterly planning meeting next week. You know, everything's as good as it needs to be, isn't it? Bring it on.
Yeah, we're very excited about it. And to sort of kick that off for us, we do have today's show. So, Mike, we're talking about it because it's the beginning of 2026. People want to start the kind of year going in strong. But can you talk about who we've got as our guest today and why we have him on?
I can, yes. I think one of the big problems with owners of businesses is they sleepwalk into things, all of us, because the day-to-day keeps us, trapped in the day-to-day. And recruiters particularly are looking down and in all the time because that's where the money is. Look down, look in. Whereas as a business leader, what you have to do is look up and out. Look to see the things you need to avoid. Look to see opportunities that you can convert and begin to plan, because what you don't want to be, particularly in this market, is on the back foot. The buffalo at the end of the herd gets no grass. You've got to be at the beginning. You've got to be ahead of the curve, not behind it. And so I saw a post by Ed Blogg, who was our guest today, back end of last year. And it resonated with me because he was talking about how he saw the recruitment industry developing in a Y. And it just resonated because I've been saying pretty much exactly the same things recently. And I thought, got to get this guy on the show, got to talk this through, because if you own a recruitment firm, you 100% need to be planning changes now. It's not just about getting the next vacancy, putting the next bum on the seat. There are a lot of changes you've got to think about. And if you don't do that, I'm not saying anything bad will happen, but I think you'll end up being a lot more reactive than you want to be. Be on the front foot. That's where I'm encouraging people to be. So we asked Edmund to come on our show today. If you don't know him, he's the CEO and the founder of Recruit Hub. And Recruit Hub is a platform and a community which helps people launch their own recruitment firms. And I think, if I'm right in saying, he's helped launch over 100 recruitment firms of that nature across the UK, Europe, Middle East, and the United States. So quite frankly, I wanted him on the show, because he got a similar viewpoint from me, and I thought we could have a little bit of a debate about it, but also because he knows a lot about recruitment and he knows a lot about business. So let's get Ed into the show.
Hello, Edmund.
Hello, both.
Hello. Thank you very much for being here with us today.
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Amazing. Okay, so great. Mike gave you a very nice introduction there, which I think was very accurate. But we like to start this show for the people who are watching who perhaps don't know who you are or don't know as much about you as some others do. Could you just kind of give us a brief summary of your journey so that people can understand just why they should listen to what you have to say?
Yeah, happy to do that. I guess, thanks, Mike, for the introduction. Pretty much spot on. So yes, our business that we run is Recruit Hub, which is focused primarily on helping agency recruiters who are getting to a point in their career where the next step for them is to step into entrepreneurship and build a business. So we provide them essentially with a platform to do that on. My journey prior to setting this up was being involved in growing a recruitment agency. It was a business that we grew to 4 offices across 2 continents, 3 brands. And I was very involved in the kind of operational infrastructure building of that and recognized basically how much heavy lifting goes into building a business outside of the key sales piece. That was really the driver to set the business up, was to give people a kind of operational engine that is theirs to kind of run on. I suppose the interest in this topic is having launched, I think we're now sort of climbing above 130 agencies on the platform since we started. we have an interesting perspective, I think, on the many different ways that recruitment can be done, different backgrounds that people come from, different models that they've been trained in terms of the agencies where they've been employed, and then what they go on to do within their businesses. So we have quite a breadth of perspective in terms of what is working, which agencies are succeeding and why, in terms of their strategies, tactics, use of tools. So yeah, I'm really interested in kind of chatting this through, because I think there's a big shift happening right under our feet, and it's going to be a very pivotal 12 to 24 months for people to really understand what they need to get right and what they need to focus on in order to thrive.
Amazing. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for that. But as we go through, guys, as always, if you do have any questions that you want to throw to Edmund or Mike, please put them in the comment section and I will do my best to bring them up. So, Mike, shall we start by talking about shaping the industry? What you think is shaping the industry? Do you want to ask Edmund about that?
Yeah, so just put a context on this, is that recruitment's been around a long time. I've been in it 37 years, and it was an established business when I came in the late 80s. It's been bumbling along, and there's been changes. Of course, we had the internet come along. We had email first, that didn't exist when I started. Then mobile phones, the internet, laptops, you can work in different places, and then social media, and now we've got AI. There's a whole bunch of stuff, right? But now I think the forces on our industry seem to have accelerated, and they're making bigger changes than perhaps we've ever seen before. I'm not talking about like the crash of 2007 and 8 or COVID or anything. That was just a blip. It was sorted. We moved on. This seems permanent to me, and it seems like there's no going back. So I wondered, Ed, just what kind of forces do you see influencing and changing our industry?
So I think the primary one that I spend kind of most of my time working on and is closest to the business is the availability of data. So I guess this is and the speed with which businesses can act on that data through new technology. So if you kind of look at recruitment and how it's evolved over maybe the last 10, 15 years, there's obviously a sort of pre-LinkedIn period in which a lot of the value of the recruitment sector was, hey, nobody knows who works where, nobody knows how to contact anybody. We will be going and piecing all this together with our little black book, and we are therefore able to go put in calls to the right candidates at the right times in a way that is simply not achievable by an employer. Suddenly, the equivalent of the lights come on in a club, suddenly everybody's entire professional trajectory is mapped out on LinkedIn with the ability to message them, advertise to them, and that changes the game substantially. You then have a playing field in which recruiters become expert in the use of those tools and in the use of searching, filtering, messaging, and outreach in that kind of new technology landscape. And then we get kind of into where we are today, where the availability of kind of business to business third party data, not just can we find these individuals on LinkedIn, but can we find their mobile numbers, can we find an email address for them, and then on top of that, can we at mass scale drive outreach campaigns to them without relying on individuals to be sending messages. That has moved the goalposts further. And then on top of that, obviously we are now layering on AI, which is the ability to do a huge amount of those things either as well, better, faster, or fully automated. So the role of the recruiter is obviously being tossed around like a ship on a stormy ocean. And I think the exciting thing is to think about, okay, in this new and evolving landscape, what should people be focusing on to ensure that they continue to build durable, viable businesses into the future?
Yeah, we're gonna look at that. There's a lot to unpack there. 100% with the new tech and the availability of data, 100%. And I think we're going to explore this a little later. I know it's a double-edged sword, because in a people business, the more automated you are, the less personal you are, as a rule of thumb. And I'm seeing a bit of a pushback on this personalization piece, which I don't want to spoil the fun now. We'll talk about it later. But if you're looking to differentiate and you're looking to wriggle through all this kind of morass of activity and people and emails and social media and all the rest of it, then that's an area where you really can forge forward, and it doesn't cost any money and anybody can do it. So I'm going to talk about that. I would add a couple of more things. So AI 100%, data 100%, but I think the economy, I know it's a transient thing. We could be talking this time next year and we're expecting 3% growth or something. I doubt it, but we might be. But the economy is not great. And that's impacted the number of vacancies. And I was told recently that number of recruitment companies has gone up to about 35,000. Presumably people have left businesses and started on their own. I don't know. So it's a smaller pool, but there's more people in it. So that competition changes the game. And then the last thing, of course, which we can't ignore is TAs. TAs are increasingly taking business away. And I don't know whether you come across this concept, Ed, of a fractional TA. Come across that? Yeah. That's starting to take away, that's starting to move down now. So TAs were the reserve of larger companies usually because they got enough vacancies to recommend, to kind of justify having them. But now smaller businesses are having a TA in the business for a few days here and there, backed up by all this technology that's doing a lot of the grunt work for the TAs. Again, it's changing the face out there. And it's just an interesting thing to be in. And I just think, you know, ultimately that combination of things is changing this industry forever. It's never going back to the way it was before.
I totally agree, and I think also one thing that's probably worth just chucking in the mix is also the rising, you know, global and remote working. So talent pools used to be very, very tightly defined by geographical radius, and enormous areas of the employment market have just thrown that out the window. So it no longer matters to us. It's obviously a post-COVID sort of feature, but that is a really interesting angle for recruiters who previously had an opportunity to add value to customers by saying, okay, fair enough, potentially this role is not enormously challenging to fill, but within the constraints of who can realistically get to your office, talent pool is massively limited. Suddenly, once that constraint is removed, you have the data, you have the speed, you have the economy, and you have the access to a massively increased global talent base, which obviously, again, changes the whole thing.
It's a good and bad thing again, isn't it? Because it increases the competition on you, but actually, obviously there's more opportunity for you as well. I was having a call with someone earlier today who does all his work in the States, all his work in America, and he'd just come back from Las Vegas. There was some show he went to, and he goes there. He said, I go because it's personal. I go because you don't have to. He said, I go because it stands out. He'd had 30 meetings in 2 days, wasn't he? Colossal amount. So I think this rising technology, which we'll talk about in a minute, also gives us an opportunity to go the opposite direction a little bit. You know, be interested in dialogue to talk about that. But that, I think you're right, and I think there's, you know, this isn't going to go backwards. I think we can all agree, and we have to change accordingly. We can't just do what we've always done. It's not gonna fly.
Okay, so I feel like now is probably a good time to start looking forward. You know, how do you see the industry developing? We talked about the things that are currently affecting it and as where we stand now, but looking forward to 2026, sorry, maybe 2027, Edwin, what kind of things do you think are going to happen?
So one kind of analogy that has been, I think, quite helpful and I think is pretty accurate is if you look at an industry like digital advertising. Digital advertising, you know, historically was a space where there was a ton of employment in people placing advertising, optimizing keywords, optimizing budgets, and managing bids in order to display adverts in the right places on the right platforms at the right moment in time. And that area of the digital advertising sort of industry has been enormously compressed and is now almost entirely programmatic and robotic. And so what has happened in that space is that the work that was being done slowly and inaccurately and prone to a bunch of error at the human level that required a high degree of cost and investment training, that employment sector is being kind of irreversibly changed. But the value has moved upward in the chain to the layer that is kind of defensively human, which is mostly around creative campaign direction and the area that AI is not superior to humans in. AI is very strong on pattern recognition, very strong on automated execution. So it's isolating then the area where humans are required to add value. So I guess, you know, that leads us probably into where I think Mike and I probably see quite a lot of alignment, which is
you say that because there's several markets have gone through not what we're going through, but a similar kind of revolution. The printing industry changed at the back end of the 90s into the noughties. And I think there are probably around about 25% of the printing companies now exist that used to exist then. 75% have disappeared, but there's still 25%. And I just wanted to put this out there that, you know, let's not get all doom and gloom about it. There's always going to be a place for recruitment companies. 100%, never going to go away. But as you said, Ed, the value is going to change. If you're at the commodity end of the market, this is my first big tip for the day. If you're at the commodity end, if you're doing £4,000 or £5,000 fees, or you're doing temps at that level, you need to be moving up the chain, because I think AI is going to take a lot of that business. Not instantly, not this year, maybe not next, I don't know, but it's going to take it. You can see how that's happening. So I think you've got to start moving now upwards. You don't have to hop to a different sector or a different type of work, absolutely fine, but you need to be making bigger fees, because AI will rot from the bottom upwards. And I've no doubt about that. You can see it happening already. And I think that these products will just get better and better and better. They might not be as good as humans, but they will be considerably cheaper when this, this what economy of scale creeps in. So I think that gives us an opportunity. And we were talking about this, talked about this a few times. I think the bigger companies will have a lot of money to invest in IT, and that IT is going to be AI agents and automation to pull things together. And these projects are complicated, that you need a business analyst, you need people to plan it out, to test it, to make sure it works. You can't just implement this on a shoestring. You can use AI, you can use agents, it's fine, but not the kind of scale that the bigger agencies are already investing in. They are massively going down that route, obviously, because they can get more work done for less people. Right, bless their hearts. So of course they're doing it, and of course that is commoditizing it. So every time there's a commoditization of a marketplace, it opens up a gap for someone who markedly isn't commodity. They're relationship driven, they're quality driven, they're higher value, they're niche, they're different. And I think these are the questions I think people need to be asking themselves. Where are you on the scale? Are you going to go down the route where you're going to try and compete with these big agencies and massively invest in IT? Or are you going to go down the opposite route, not ignore it, because you've got to use these products, but really lead on being a person? And we talked about this before, Ed. Be interested to know your perspective on that.
Yes, so I think, I mean, if we're kind of drifting into what are some practical things that people can be thinking about in their business, which I think is probably a helpful thread to keep alive in the conversation, mm-hmm. I would say it starts with, and it does sound very foundational, but I've always been surprised and not surprised by to what degree a clear answer to this doesn't always exist in even some quite successful firms. It's genuinely auditing with a cool, clear head. Where is it that what are your customers buying from you? Why are they prepared to pay your fees, and what is the problem that you are solving for them? And that is absolutely, of course, not the same for different businesses with different types of customers. And so as I look at it, I think the areas where your business is, as you mentioned, Mike, kind of really the value is your scale and persistence of outreach, right? If that's what you're bringing to the table, is it's a capacity and an outsourcing play by the end client to say, we simply don't have the manpower to be able to go chug through all the steps we need to do to be able to churn up and filter and qualify applicants, then that's absolutely territory where people need to either be thinking, we need to, as you say, kind of move upstream and look for different opportunities within our specialism, or they potentially have an option to lean into it and embrace it and say, great, we need to really understand how we can use these tools better to deliver what it is that our customers have historically found so valuable to them in a way that is vastly more efficient and continues to be kind of economically sustainable. That's one thing to think about. But I think what I find exciting about it, because I totally agree with you, I don't think it's doom and gloom at all for the industry. I think it's exciting, but I think it starts with analyzing where is it that we add value to the customer, and what is it that they're buying from us? Why can't they do this on their own? Why are they happy to pay our fees in the first instance? And then say, okay, how do we use this new technology to double down on that, which is ultimately what the customer is paying for? And this is, I guess, where you get in some of those, higher value areas, which is if you are, highly effective in going and telling a nuanced and compelling brand story around a particular opportunity in a way that the client can't do themselves, based on, information that you hold on a talent pool that is not available to public data sources, AI can't scrape, then you are really compounding, hey, this is actually where we've always been useful to customers. This is what they've always been buying, actually, in its essence. And we can actually do that massively better than we've ever done as a result of the tools, as opposed to being eroded by them. So I think it all starts with understanding, are you selling the right thing to the right person?
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think the Pareto analysis applies here. 80% of vacancies are fairly easy to fill, 20% take all the time and effort. You should be building a business that goes for the 20%, because the 80% the machines or the TAs will do. We ran just to tell you, Ed, we ran a showcase, an AI showcase last year. We had 8 different product suppliers on talking about their products. And off air, one of them told us that they were targeting end user clients. He said, because there's a lot more of them than there are recruitment companies, and they have to recruit people like anybody else. So if you've got a TA department, we'll just make you super efficient doing the things you don't like to do, which is the outreach. We'll just make you super efficient at that. And I think that's a bigger threat than people are accepting. It's not just being about good at recruitment. You made a very good point. It's about being good at recruitment in a way that TAs or bigger agencies can't emulate. Because if you're doing what they do, they're going to do it cheaper, because they've got access to the same technology that you have. Of course they have, and they're buying it. Right? So
100%. And I think it's one interesting kind of angle on this that I see somewhat regularly, and I think is a really important thing for people to ideally take away, is I do think people need to avoid putting their heads in the sand over this topic, and I think it's incredibly dangerous to do that. And the first thing I would encourage people to do is to go out and educate themselves on what actually are the capabilities today of the most cutting edge tools in our industry around AI and automation, even if you're very skeptical about how well and how effectively they will actually be in deployment. You need to know the status of the actual technology environment you're operating in and where it's going, and understanding that is the first step. And I think a lot of people just think AI, it's always wrong, spits out gibberish, blah, 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 and don't take it seriously and don't do the hard work. Similar, I had a conversation with people recently where we were talking about, autonomous vehicles and kind of what's the trajectory towards fully self-driving cars where you just jump in, put in a destination, sit back, read a book, and the car takes you there. And it's interesting that the spread of awareness across a given group of people. With some people, when you say fully autonomous cars exist, right? There are cities in the US where you can hail a driverless taxi. That's already happening. And people's jaws drop because they've not been there, read about it, seen it.
Wash with it now.
Right. So this is not future tech. This is real. You can use it today. And I think we have a similar thing somewhere in areas of the recruitment sector where there's not yet enough awareness around actually this has moved a lot quicker than perhaps you'd understood. And you definitely, as step one, need to go out and understand what exists today, what can it do.
We have to do a commercial break now, but I want to pick up on this later, because I think this is a really important topic that you have brought up, Ed, because it's something that you can do right now, and we need to dig into that a bit.
We do. So in a second, as we spoke about, Mike, we're going to have a sponsor. Then for some reason, my comments aren't pulling through to StreamYard, which is why I keep looking over here, because I can see them on LinkedIn. So there are some that I want to bring up. And then we're going to start talking about kind of choices that people can make to prosper in this new world. But before then, Mike, it is a message from our sponsor, which is us still, because that's how we roll. So Mike, do you want to do our sponsored message?
I do. If you could bring that up for me, Kirst. Okay, right. So we're running one of our PLW, Profit, Lifestyle and Wealth workshops for owners of recruitment firms who perhaps are a little disappointed in the way things have turned out. They're not making enough profit. They're working too hard. And when they go to work, they're doing the sort of stuff that perhaps they don't want to do. And blow me down, their plan to build and sell in 5 years is now apparently not going to happen, because only 0.2% of recruitment companies are ever sold for any amount of money. So there's no thought about how they're going to be wealthy enough to retire in style. So we run these workshops. We have one coming up. It's going to be very simple: how to build a high profit business that does not depend upon you on a day-to-day basis. And ultimately, some of that profit goes into your retirement fund. That's the whole deal, really. Now, here are the details. It's on the 24th of February. It's 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. UK time. We have a maximum of 8 spaces. So it's a workshop. People get a chance to talk. can share what you want to share. You can ask questions. You can really dig deep into this so you fully understand what a PLW business looks like. And it's free. We don't charge for it. And there's one other thing which should be on here and it isn't for some reason. This is a pitch-free zone. There's no sales pitch in this workshop. It is pure value. Just be aware of that. So if you're interested and would like to know more, so this isn't a commitment, you just want to know more, we have a beautiful little one-pager which I can send to you. And to get that, you just need to comment below PLW workshop. If you don't want people to know that you'd like to come to this, we had someone today, I put a post out today on the same subject, and she sent me an email to say, I'd like to come, but I don't want my team to know. It's absolutely fine. It's in complete confidentiality. So the other option is you can DM me, PLW workshop. That's all you need to put in. And then I will send you the one pager and it's up to you. It is first come, first served. We've had a lot of interest on the LinkedIn post today. You can go and look and see what I'm saying is true. If you want to come, get the one pager, make a decision. So we'd love to see you there. They're really great events, aren't they, Kirsty?
They are indeed. They are indeed. We love them. We love doing them. Okay. All right. And for those listening on the podcast as well, just go to Mike's LinkedIn and DM in there. Okay. So we have had a couple of questions. I know we're kind of timing is getting tense, but I just want to run through. So a couple of people have said, one person says that on average, the recruitment firms that exist are 50% lower, but other people have said that because of that, people are starting their own companies. And one person's even said that due to they're seeing more recruiters in their niche because salespeople, people who have never previously done recruitment, who have now been made redundant but understand the industry well, are going into recruitment. So that could also explain.
Can I just stop you right there, Kirsty, before we continue? There's a thing called the displacement effect, which is happening now as well. People are displaced from their part of the market because it's drying up, or the TAs have taken it, or the AIs are doing whatever. So they are going to pivot and go somewhere else, where somebody else is making a good living right now. But with all these extra competition, these competitors coming into it, it has an effect. It's called the displacement effect. It's common across all industries, not just recruitment, but that's happening now as well. Should have said that at the beginning, actually. Thanks for that, Kirsty.
No, it's okay. We thank the comments. They're the ones who are saying it. And then a lot of people are saying that the demand from clients just isn't there in the same way. You know, the world as it is right now is a little bit unsure. And so people are kind of playing things closer to their chest. So I think perhaps now is a good time to go.
Just on that, Kirsty, good news story. Good news. Predicted that the first quarter would be 0.3% growth. So we're not in recession. It's not scream away, but at least we're heading in the right direction. So a bit of good news there.
I like a bit of positivity. So let's carry with that positivity. So Edmund, people who are watching this are predominantly going to be owners or very senior people. What kind of choices can they make for themselves where they not only survive whatever world that we're currently in, but they prosper in it, they do well in it, they're at the front of the pack? What kind of things can they do?
Yeah, so I think this kind of links back to what I mentioned earlier. In my view, I think the number one thing they can do is be crystal clear on what the value they bring to their customers is. And then I would say you want to have a look at how can you leverage and take advantage of emerging technology to deliver that value better. That's probably the number one thing, right? So I think it kind of links back to something else we were talking about earlier, which is the data piece. And my view is really that the kind of preserve of the future recruiter is really going to be around information that is vital for effective hiring, headhunting, and high value placements that is not publicly available. So all of the tools in the world are only as good as the information on which they run. And this even comes back to Mike's point around large agencies investing heavily in AI. At the end of the day, even that is only as strong as the information on which it runs. So I think recruiters who recognize that the value they bring to customers comes from invisible signals that the employer and the kind of tech setup cannot see, which might be dissatisfaction within a firm. It might be the fact that layoffs are imminent even though they haven't been publicized. It might be the fact that confidentially a particular leader is stepping down or budget has been cancelled, or it might be it's really inner workings of an organization. It might be compensation structures, it might be operational pressures, all of these types of things which go to Mike's point around relationships, real human conversations, meeting people, talking to them. And once you have that as the foundational layer for how effective you are, you can not only compete with AI robots that are spamming people blindly based on very blunt information that they have access to, you can outcompete those. And you have then the other kind of key commodity, which I think is going to be another foundation for the future, which is going to be authenticity and trust. So I think businesses that have developed a brand and a community and a reputation for being the human that can cut through all of the saturated noise generated by this massive volume of outreach, those things are enormous. So I would say, it's about strategic design of your firm, looking into the future and saying, how can we find a space for ourselves that uses this technology to our advantage, but also gives us an ongoing edge against technology that is only ever going to be able to run on a limited data set. I don't know if that's
again a lot to unpack.
Boringly technical, but that's my
No,
view.
I liked it.
Rather boringly, I agree with it. So I'm going to have to try and think of ways to disagree, because that's what the audience likes. No, I'm not going to do that. But I think, just to unpack some of that there, we're telling all our clients now to use AI to become great at the things that AI can't do. So AI can't do relationships. It can't. It's a machine. I know there are some weird people that have relationships with machines, but I don't think we should talk about them on this. It's a family show. But no, you can't have a relationship with a machine. It can't get to know you. It can't react to things that it sees in the way that human beings can. And if you've got a chance, if you Google Uncanny Valley, Uncanny Valley, it's like, what that means is, it was invented by a Japanese scientist, is that if you see something that a machine has done that's supposed to emulate a human, we have an uncanny way of being able to figure that out, and we don't like it as human beings.
Just feels a bit off. Just feels ever so slightly off.
Feels a bit repulsive, so we don't want to be doing that. So I think the future of AI is really to keep it in the background, I think, and use it to help you become good at building relationships and leverage those relationships. I also think the thing that you said about figuring out your space, it comes down to niche. If you're not niche now, you need to be. You need to be niche. And you can't be niche on a pissant little $5,000 deal, because we both know, well, we all know that it takes pretty much the same effort to make a $6,000 fee as a $10,000 fee or a $12,000 fee. There is a bit more to it, but not vast amounts more. The bigger fees that you make, you make more profit, but also you have more time to invest in relationships. And that's the big problem with a lot of commodity hirers, is they've got no time. You have to keep that treadmill going and put those placements in to keep the lights on. Whereas if you move up the chain a little bit, get more time. And that's the thing, I think, that will save you. We remember that when 64 million years ago, when the meteor struck the Earth, the big beasts that were roaming around all became extinct. It was those little mammals in the hole that survived and turned into us. I'm not suggesting that we're going to have a meteor hitting that.
Say, keep it light, Mike. Keep it light.
Yeah, it went really dark very quickly.
Go back. Come on.
The point is that don't be afraid of this if you're a small business. I think you get a greater chance to prosper in this new world than if you're one of these big beasts, because they have to get it right, and if they don't get it right, they're going to lose money hand over fist, really. So I think
Edmund, you look like you have something to say on that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, annoyingly agree again. I think the other point is that it's about agility, right? And this is where the large firms can say, right, we're going to automate the daylights out of the bottom end of the market, and they will, and they should. But the technology, the pace of development of technology is massively increasing all the time. So it's not just there are new and better tools coming out. There are newer and better tools coming out faster, that are getting better faster. So the ability for an organization, that employs thousands of staff to say, this is our tech stack, this is how it works, this is how people are trained on it, that kind of cohesion is almost an operational structure that's hard to see being sustainable. Whereas a smaller, more agile organization can, oh Christ, a tool has come out on Monday that wasn't out on Friday that gives us an edge, we adopt it. And the speed of adoption and the kind of intuitive nature of a lot of these AI tools, which are basically running on things like unstructured data instead of structured data, meaning you don't need to be as regimented in terms of everyone has to fill in all these boxes. Nonsense. Everyone needs to get on with their job. AI is there, listening, contextualizing, synthesizing. It means that small businesses can actually continue to reinvent an edge. And it's going to be, I think, very hard for big lumbering businesses to be able to pivot fast enough.
They'll be like tankers as opposed to jet skis. And I think on that tech thing, there's something else that you can do. is that when I started in IT in 1978, long time,
Very
right?
long time.
One of the lecturers told us, I remember vividly, that when you write stuff for your clients, when you were out there in the industry writing stuff, they'll use about 90% of what you write. Okay. And I was horrified, so I thought they should use 100% of what I wrote because it was so brilliant. Was I wrong or what? Anyway, moving on. Now it's as low as 5%. So in other words, we have technology that we have bought, we own, we could use, but we don't. There's all sorts of reasons for that. So one of the things that you can do right now is make the most of the tech that you already have. The tech won't work. It's a tool. The tech won't work unless you know how to use it. So if you're going to buy a piece of tech where you've got some tech, put some effort in to really understand how you can squeeze every ounce of value out of that tech. Whether it's AI or whether it's not, it doesn't matter. How are you going to really leverage it? And the problem is, I think people are moving quickly, as you said, and that's a good thing, but they're moving too quickly in that they're taking a piece of tech, using a bit of it, and then thinking, oh, well, that's whatever, I'm moving on. No, get to know the tech, get to understand what it can do, and really leverage it. You paid for it after all, so why don't you do that? And that's the only way that you'll get the most out of these tools, because the machines won't do the job for you. They won't do that. They never have.
There's another thing I wanted to pull out as well about what Edmund said, where you spoke about, the only way that you're going to understand certain amounts of information about potential clients and industries is to talk to them and to have conversations with them. And we often get from our clients that clients don't want to talk to them. Their clients don't want to speak to them. They don't like recruiters, various other things. But during those conversations, if you combine the thing that Mike was saying about, be interested in people, be interested in relationships, and what you were saying, Edmund, about gathering data, understanding how the situation, the economy, those kind of things, clients want to know about that. You don't have to break confidences. You don't have to say, client A is doing this, steal it. But you can say, we're seeing a trend of this, we're seeing a trend of that. And those kind of things are definitely going to open up doors. And those are the kind of things, again, that AI just will not be able to do, because these are information that you're picking up over 10 or 15 conversations about stuff that's just not public, like you were saying about AI.
But I would say conversely, AI gives you the ability to leverage that advantage even more and compound it, right? So you now have the ability to say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Client, just so you know, 70% of the customers, of the candidates that we spoke to about your vacancy, either had never heard of your brand or had a negative impression of it, or X, Y, Z, all the stuff that you would usually have a bunch of, desk researchers going and building slow PowerPoints. If you're capturing that conversationally, it's up to your creativity to think how you deliver it back to customers' value.
That's the point. That's what I think that people should be using it for. They are still the front. The machine, you're not getting the machine to do your job. If your machine can do your job, you're in trouble, right? You are in big trouble, right? You're getting the machine to make it easier for you to build relationships. And that kind of thing is classic, because if you've done 100 candidate experiences and you make sure you ask 2 or 3 questions, have you heard of the brand, this, that, and the other, then AI will generate that data for you.
I think it links to what we said earlier, right? Which is you have to understand what is the value that you bring to your customer. Because if you say, well, actually, it is that we provide insights and our customers care about that. Fantastic. You can provide insights to your customers in a way that you've never been able to do before. So you can compound and double down on that value strand. If your customers couldn't give 2 hoots about their brand awareness, then obviously you're in trouble. So a lot of it is really understanding, the foundational economics of your proposition to your customers.
There are a lot of clients out there, right? There's a lot of niches. There's a lot of clients out there. You just got to choose the clients that want to work in the way that you want to work. And yeah, that's hard. I'm not saying that's easy, as everyone will do it. But if you understand what an ideal client looks like for you, and part of it is someone that values this kind of information and wants to work with a professional outfit, they don't just want the cheapest deal, so we'll give it to some TAs and a machine. Then collecting those and having a client estate which is rich in those means that you're going to make more money and actually have a better time, strangely enough. And they're less prone to kind of the things that TAs aren't particularly good at, and neither are AIs, which I think brings us to promotion for next time, doesn't it, Kirsty?
I was going to say, we are coming towards the end of the show. So in a second, I'm going to come to you guys for top tips. You've dropped a lot of conversation here, so we're going to come and do practical things that people can do. But before then, Mike, let's talk about our next show, which is one you've been really looking forward to.
Oh man, this has taken me some doing to get Keeley on board. So Keeley Herring is a lead TA from quite a large business, and I had a conversation with her, having seen an email, having seen a post that she made, just like Ed, about what TAs look for in agencies. And it was really interesting because she'd got such a level-headed and honest appraisal of what agencies should do if they want to work with TAs. Because she works with TAs, she works with agencies, she likes agencies, but there are certain rules that you cannot break. And if you do, you've got no chance. And she wants to go through those rules. She wants to share with people, if you want to work with TAs, this is the way that you do it. And we are very excited about that show.
Yes, we are indeed. It's going to be a very good one. So we hope to see you there in 2 weeks. But we're still on this show. And so, Edmund, thank you so much for today. You've been so honest and open and things. But you've dropped a lot of knowledge. And if people are watching this and they're thinking or listening to this and they're thinking, right, okay, so there's been a lot thrown at me. If you were to sit down with them and say, listen, this is the thing that you need to keep in mind the most, or this is the thing that you need to do first, what would that top tip be for you?
I think it would be to do an honest kind of audit of your business and understand where your business will still be providing value to its customers in the future state of recruitment. That's 100% the thread is, if you can understand an environment in which all of the things we've been discussing here are true, the ability to find candidates at light speed, contact those candidates at light speed, message them persistently, stay in front of them, run them through automated screening campaigns. If all of that materializes, where is your value going to be? And start designing your processes, your use of technology, your value proposition. Everything needs to be geared to that. So I'd say if you're trying to figure out how to do recruitment the way you've always done it, if you're trying to do recruitment the way you used to do it 10 years ago, you're going to really struggle. If you have your head up and you're looking and saying, when all of this is around us, because it is coming and we can't backtrack, where is my value going to be? And how do I start working today towards making sure that that's the core of my business?
I really like that.
Yeah, I know it's my turn in a minute, but that's really great advice. In fact, I wish I'd said that. That's better than mine. So it is, yeah. But it's true. If you don't do that, that's a better niche, really. Understanding your value, understanding the people that want to buy it, what they look like, what you can do for them. I think that that is going to set you up. That is the first step. It's a great first step. Thank you for that, Ed.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, Mike, it's your turn now. Normally we don't let you have one, but it's the first show back, so I will.
Yeah, well, I'd got a choice of two, really. In the end, I went for really leaning into and doubling down on relationships, because the machines can't do it, quite simply. And also you can, as Ed said, you can pick up all sorts of information that you can actually then process and bring that back as useful data for people, make you an interesting person to talk to. So, but I think that people are looking for that increasingly. The uncanny valley is a real thing, as is, as the email providers, the email service providers, ESPs and ISPs are trying to sift out spam emails. And a spam email is just an email that you don't want. So the more you automate that, the more these spammers are going to try and dig out your email. So picking the phone up, going to see people if possible, attending events in person and mixing with people. I think increasingly it's going to be important. Build relationships that are based on trust and rapport and honesty, and I think you'll stand out. The other thing I was going to say as well, I know we've got 2 minutes, so I'm not going to take 2 minutes, but it is really leaning into delivery. So we did a survey, this was some years ago, we should do it again, where we actually spoke to end clients and said, well, what do you want from your agencies? And the things that came back time and time again is we want CVs that match the brief. And when candidates come, we want them to match the CV. And when we offer them, we want them to take the job. That's it. That's what we want. That's what we're paying for. That's what we want. And sometimes we can overview that. We miss it, really. We get all tied up in all the fancy tech and all the marketing and all these things. That's just what the clients want. They don't care about anything else. And that's called delivery. Go deep on delivery as well. Become the best deliverer that there is. And yes, you can use technology in there. Of course you can. But you should. You'll have to, in fact. But be the person that gets the right candidate. And then when they offer the job, the candidate takes it. Be that person, and you'll be absolutely fine in this new market.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Just one quick point before I close up is somebody asked what TA means about the next show. It means talent acquisition team, those internal recruiters for larger organizations. So
Sorry, I should have. That's my bad. I should have made that.
That's okay. It's my fault too. I didn't grab it. So it comes to me now to close our first show of the year. First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody who's watched. Thank you to everybody who's commented as well. I'm so sorry for some reason it's not pulling through. The tech's not working at the moment. But I will go through and make sure that somebody comments. Either
Tech's
Mike
not
or
working.
myself. I know. What are the odds? It's like a paid it to not work. Or Edmund as well. We'll go through and make sure to comment on all of your comments. So thank you so much. I want to say a huge thank you to Edmund. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your being open and honest. Really very much appreciate it.
No, pleasure. Thanks so much for having me on. Really, really enjoyed the conversation.
It's been a joy. And I suppose I should say thank you for Mike, mostly for that shirt that he's wearing, which if you're listening on the podcast, you are missing out.
Nobody sent me the sensible shirt email. Well, if they did, I didn't read it.
Just delete it, I think, actually. Yeah. Okay. All right. And we will see you in 2 weeks' time with Keely.
We will indeed. See you then.